You are about to lose something without even noticing it. Every time you tell someone your next move, your biggest dream, your deepest wound, a small piece of your power quietly leaks out. Most people never notice the leak until their energy is gone and their plans have collapsed. But there is a simple habit that stops this leak completely: staying quiet. Not because you are shy, not because you are hiding, but because silence is one of the most underrated forms of strength a person can build. In the next few minutes, you will understand exactly why the quietest people in the room are often the strongest ones in it. Chapter 1. Silence protects your power. Speaking comes naturally. Holding back does not. That is exactly why the people who master silence stand apart. They are not loud, they are composed. First, your story is not public property. Plenty of people will listen to you, but listening is not the same as caring. Some will hear your plans only to compare. Some will hear your pain only to gossip. When you give everyone access to your inner world, you also give them the power to affect how you feel. Privacy is not secrecy. Privacy is protection. Second, quietness conserves your energy. Repeating your struggles out loud, again and again, slowly drains your mental fuel. A quiet mind stays clear, steady and calm, and that saved energy becomes fuel for real progress. Third, quiet people think before they move. Talking less creates a gap between what you feel and what you do. Inside that gap, wisdom grows. You stop reacting on impulse and start responding with intention. Fourth, restraint makes your words heavier. A person who talks constantly gets tuned out. A person who speaks rarely gets listened to. Say less, mean more. Fifth, silence shields your ambitions. Announcing a goal too early invites doubt before you've even started. Many dreams are killed in their infancy, not by failure, but by too many opinions. Build in silence. Let the outcome do the talking. Sixth, silence sharpens your ability to read people. When your mouth is closed, your eyes and ears open wider. You start noticing real intentions, real character, real honesty, details that loud people miss entirely. Seventh, not everyone has earned a place in your mind. Your thoughts are valuable currency. Handing them out freely makes them worthless. Deciding who gets access to your inner life is not coldness, it is self-worth. Eighth, silence builds emotional command. Speaking in the heat of a moment almost always leads to regret. A pause gives your emotions time to cool before your mouth catches up. Ninth, quiet confidence outlasts loud confidence. Loud confidence performs for an audience. Quiet confidence needs no audience at all. It doesn't try to impress, it simply improves. 10th, silence is not fear, it is dignity. You are not staying quiet because you're afraid to speak. You're staying quiet because you respect yourself too much to explain your every move. That respect is where real power begins. None of this means you should carry everything alone forever. It simply means you get to choose the timing, the audience, and the reason before you open up. That single choice is what separates oversharing from genuine, intentional connection. Chapter 2. Silence builds focus and discipline. The world is loud, which is exactly why silence has become rare, and rare things are valuable. The less you broadcast, the less your attention leaks outward, and the sharper your mind becomes. Every explanation you give pulls a little bit of your focus outside yourself. Staying quiet keeps that focus locked inward, where your actual work happens. Talking about a problem repeatedly keeps recreating that problem in your mind. A quiet mind, on the other hand, has room to concentrate deeply on a single task without the constant noise of self-narration. People who explain themselves less waste less time. Instead of debating, defending, or justifying every decision, quiet people simply act, and action always outpaces conversation. Silence also trains emotional discipline. Words spoken in anger cannot be unspoken. A brief pause before reacting is often the difference between peace and regret. Discipline is forged quietly. When there's no audience clapping for your effort, and you still show up anyway, that is where real character is built. Sharing a goal invites unsolicited opinions, some doubtful, some discouraging, some simply wrong. Silence protects your direction, letting your inner compass guide you, instead of a crowd of outside voices. Quiet people also learn faster, because listening teaches more than talking ever could. Every conversation you don't dominate becomes a lesson in human behavior. There's a strange trick the brain plays. Talking about a goal can feel almost as satisfying as achieving it, which secretly kills motivation. Staying quiet keeps the hunger alive until the work is actually done. Growth needs privacy the way a seed needs soil. Not everyone will understand your journey, and that's fine. Some things are meant to develop underground before they ever show above the surface. Consistency beats big talk every single time. Anyone can announce a plan. Very few can execute it quietly, day after day, without needing applause along the way. Mental toughness is built the same way. Staying calm under pressure, refusing to explain yourself to critics, and resisting the urge to prove your worth to strangers. Silence also makes you harder to predict. When people can't map out your next move, they can't interfere with it either. Unpredictability, used wisely, is its own kind of protection. Oversharing invites drama. Silence keeps your peace intact. And peace is the soil where growth actually happens. The most dangerous kind of progress is the kind nobody sees coming. When your effort stays hidden, people underestimate you, right up until the results speak for themselves. None of this means shutting people out completely. It means being selective, choosing depth over noise, and quality of connection over quantity of conversation. That is maturity, not isolation. There's also a quieter benefit few people talk about. Silence teaches patience with your own process. When you're not narrating every step out loud, you stop measuring your progress against other people's timelines, and you start trusting your own pace instead. That trust is what keeps people going long after motivation fades. Stay with me, because the next part explains something most people never realize about silence and their own mind. Chapter 3. Silence makes you mentally unbreakable. Real mental strength isn't about being hard to reach. It's about being hard to shake. And the people who stay quiet, more often than not, become the ones nothing can move. A pause before you speak gives you control over your own reaction. Anger, fear, and ego all rush to speak first. Silence interrupts that rush and lets you choose your response instead of surrendering to your impulse. Words once spoken can never be fully taken back. Every person carries at least one memory of a sentence they wish they had swallowed instead of said. Staying quiet today is often what buys you peace tomorrow. The less people know about what actually affects you, the less they can use it against you. Silence hides your emotional triggers, and nobody can pull a string they can't find. Attacks aimed at silence tend to lose their target. Without a reaction to latch onto, Criticism simply runs out of fuel and fades on its own. Choosing not to defend yourself in every argument is not weakness, it's emotional maturity. Strong people pick their battles, and most battles aren't worth picking. Ironically, silence reveals emotions more clearly than talking does. When the noise stops, you finally get to hear what you're actually feeling underneath it all. Independence grows in quiet people naturally. They don't need constant reassurance or applause because their sense of self doesn't depend on outside approval. Oversharing creates emotional whiplash, highs and lows tied to other people's reactions. Silence steadies that rhythm because your calm no longer depends on anyone else's opinion. Real confidence doesn't need a microphone. It simply knows, without needing to announce it, exactly who it is and what it's capable of. When your next move is unclear to everyone around you, you become harder to read and, in a strange way, harder to stop. Stress feeds on complaining. The less you feed it with words, the faster it starts to shrink, leaving room for calm, deliberate action instead of panic. Everyone has weak days. Silence gives you the space to have one without the whole world watching, and that protection matters more than people realize. Being alone with your own thoughts, without needing outside noise to fill the silence, is a skill, and it's one that quiet people develop early. Overthinking often thrives on rehearsed conversations in your head, choosing stillness over constant internal talking, quiets that cycle far faster than distraction ever could. Pain handled loudly often turns into drama. Pain processed quietly, with patience, tends to turn into wisdom instead. None of this happens instantly. Mental strength built through silence is slow, almost invisible work, but it compounds. Every quiet moment you choose not to react is a small deposit into a version of yourself that eventually can't be shaken by much at all. Chapter 4. Silence protects your goals and your future. Most unfinished dreams didn't die from lack of talent. They died from too much talking and not enough building. Telling people your goal can trick your brain into feeling accomplished before you've done a single thing toward it. That false sense of progress is one of the sneakiest motivation killers there is. Not everyone celebrating you out loud is celebrating you in private. Some carry quiet envy, quiet doubt, quiet discomfort, and once you share your plans, those feelings can quietly seep into your own mindset. Too much advice creates too much noise. Every person who weighs in on your plan is speaking from their own limited view of the world, not yours. People who work quietly tend to finish what loud people only ever announce. Talking can feel like progress, but it isn't. Actual output is the only thing that counts. Defending or explaining your plan to skeptics costs energy you could be spending on the plan itself. Silence redirects that energy back where it belongs. Once people know your target, they start expecting results, and that expectation quietly becomes pressure. Staying quiet lets you move at your own pace, free of outside timelines. Nobody can sabotage a plan they don't know about. Working in silence keeps your progress protected from interference, distraction, and doubt. Working toward a goal with no one watching reveals your real discipline, the kind that exists whether or not anyone is applauding. Information is leverage. The less you reveal, the more room you have to observe, adjust, and move strategically instead of reactively. Big achievements require patience, and patience is something silence teaches naturally, because there's no crowd demanding updates every step of the way. Comparing your pace to someone else's is exhausting and mostly pointless. Silence keeps your journey personal, measured only against your own progress. People tend to underestimate quiet effort, right up until the results show up and prove them wrong. That surprise is a kind of quiet power all its own. Freedom to fail and adjust without an audience is priceless. Silence gives you room to stumble, learn, and correct course without public judgment. The pressure to prove yourself to others can quietly sabotage your own effort. Removing that pressure lets your growth happen naturally, at its own pace. In the end, results carry more weight than any explanation ever could. Let your outcome do the talking your words never needed to do. There's one more thing worth remembering here. The people who eventually surprise everyone are almost never the loudest ones in the room during the process. They're the ones who disappeared into the work while everyone else was busy talking about theirs. Quiet effort compounds in ways that announcements never can. Chapter 5. Silence strengthens your relationships. Oversharing is often mistaken for closeness, but real intimacy is built on trust and timing, not on constant disclosure. Sharing every fear and flaw with everyone leaves you emotionally exposed to people who never asked to carry that weight. Balance protects mutual respect. Not every person is equipped to hold your truth carefully. Some will misuse it, misunderstand it, or repeat it. Choosing who hears what protects your heart. Most conflicts start with a careless sentence. Staying quiet in a heated moment removes the fuel before an argument even has a chance to ignite. The less personal ammunition you hand out, the less anyone can use against you later. Restraint becomes a quiet form of armor. People learn how to treat you based on what you allow. When you don't explain every decision, others naturally learn to respect your boundaries instead of testing them. Listening replaces talking as the real skill of connection. Quiet people absorb more, understand more, and build trust faster because of it. Constant validation seeking creates dependence on others' approval. Silence builds the kind of independence that makes relationships healthier, not needier. Watching more and speaking less helps you notice who actually listens, who respects your boundaries, and who deserves more of your time. Words spoken in emotion are the hardest ones to take back. Choosing silence in the moment often prevents the deepest regrets later. Relationships built on mutual understanding don't require constant explanation. That kind of quiet trust is a sign of maturity, not distance. Not every conversation deserves your energy. Silence lets you save your emotional reserves for the people who genuinely matter. A little mystery keeps respect alive. Total openness, given too soon, can flatten the depth that keeps people curious and engaged. Criticism loses its sting when you don't feel the need to defend yourself against it. That calm is its own quiet confidence. Healing happens more completely away from an audience. Talking too much about a wound can keep it open longer than necessary. Deep connections are built on trust and patience, not noise. Silence filters out shallow relationships and strengthens the ones worth keeping. And there's a quiet kind of respect that grows between two people who don't need constant updates from each other to feel connected. That kind of bond isn't built through daily reports. It's built through consistency, presence, and knowing that some things don't need to be said out loud to be understood. Chapter 6. Silent Power. Becoming unstoppable without announcing it. Real strength rarely announces itself. The people who need the least approval are usually the ones who have already found it within themselves. Every explanation, every defense, every justification costs energy. Choosing silence keeps that energy available for the things that actually matter: growth, focus, and healing. The less people understand about what hurts you, the fewer ways they have to hurt you. Calm, quiet composure becomes its own kind of shield. The biggest battles quiet people fight are internal, against doubt, fear, and ego. Winning those quiet battles is what makes outward success possible. Emotion moves fast. Strategy waits. Choosing to observe before reacting turns quiet moments into calculated advantages. Growth doesn't need a running commentary. You don't have to announce that you're improving. You simply become better, and the difference speaks for itself. Being underestimated has its advantages. When people don't expect much from you, they also don't interfere much, giving you room to grow undisturbed. Real self-respect grows the moment you stop oversharing. Realizing that not every thought needs to be spoken is a quiet form of dignity. Calm minds hold up under pressure far better than reactive ones. Staying composed when things get hard is where silent strength proves itself. Comfort with solitude removes the fear of being alone. When you're at ease with your own company, you stop chasing validation from everyone else. True maturity shows up as control. Control over your words, your reactions, and your ego. And silence trains all three at once. Pain talked about carelessly often turns into more pain. Pain reflected on quietly tends to transform into wisdom instead. A calm, steady presence often speaks louder than any explanation could. People feel composure before they ever hear a single word. You don't owe the world a narration of your journey. Let your discipline, your results, and your growth answer the questions your silence leaves open. In the end, silence isn't about hiding from the world. It's about mastering yourself so completely that you no longer need the world's permission to keep going. That mastery doesn't happen overnight. It builds one quiet decision at a time. One moment where you chose not to explain, not to defend, not to prove anything to anyone. Each of those small choices adds up into something loud words could never build, a kind of strength that simply exists, without needing to be announced. So here's the truth to carry with you. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your journey. You don't have to share every plan, every setback, every private thought. Silence is not weakness, it is control. It protects your energy, sharpens your focus, and lets you grow without the weight of outside pressure. Let people wonder. Let people guess. You just keep building. One day, your results will speak so clearly that your silence will finally make complete sense to everyone watching. You don't need a bigger audience to feel validated. You don't need constant reassurance to know you're on the right path. What you need is the discipline to keep going quietly, even when no one is watching, even when nothing seems to be happening on the surface. That is where the real work always takes place. Beneath the noise, away from the applause, in the moments no one else will ever see. If this gave you something to think about, come be part of our community at WisdomLoom English. We dig into truths like this every single week. Hit subscribe so you never miss the next one.